Hi there, this is Adie from Adie Trinity Music, and in today's video I want to share with you one of my favorite practice strategies for learning to play fast notes. Now, some things that this would not apply to include difficult rhythms, complicated bowings, intonation. Instead, this is specifically to train the muscle memory in your left hand when playing fast passages like runs of 16th notes, things with a lot of fast, moving, and consistent note values. So let's take a look at an example. This piece is Paganini's Moto Perpetuo. It is 4 pages of non-stop 16th notes at a vivace tempo. So how would a person go about learning a piece like this? Well, there are actually a lot of strategies, and they all involve breaking the piece down into smaller, more manageable chunks. But the one that I want to talk about today is something that I like to call 5 notes 5 times. So let's take a look at the beginning of this piece, and I am going to work on learning it myself so that you can see this method in action. So, unlike a lot of other practice strategies, this one actually does not involve slow practice. What it does involve is playing as fast as you possibly can, but only the number of notes that you can play correctly at a fast tempo. Because theoretically you could play 5 notes extremely fast, even if you can't play the whole piece all the way up to tempo yet. So let's take a look first at the first 5 notes of the piece, which are these. Like that. I can play that nice and fast. Like that. If you can't play those 5 notes very fast yet, if they're a little bit more difficult, maybe there's a shift involved, then you would want to go back and do some slow practice first. But this is for something that you could do small chunks very quickly. So now I'm going to play those 5 notes again 5 times, ensuring that if I make a mistake, I will start over. Let me try it. Oops, I made a mistake. I forgot the shift, so now I have to start over. 1. Like that. So you can see that I've done that 5 notes perfectly. Next, I'm going to move on to the next 5 notes, which are, starting in 2nd position. Ooh, that was a little bit messy. Let me try that again. That's a little bit better. Can I do that 5 times in a row? Let's find out. I did it. If I had made a mistake there, I would want to start over and make sure that each one is perfect. If you make a mistake, always start over. We don't want to do 5 times in a row if they have mistakes in them, because then you're learning it wrong. So now you may be wondering, why is it 5 notes 5 times? If we're working with 16th notes, there are only 4 notes for each grouping. But it's very important to always include not only the 4 notes in a specific grouping, but also the first note of the next grouping. In this case, that would mean all 4 notes of beat 1 and the very first 16th note of beat 2, which gives us 5 notes in total. This is extremely important because when we go to put the piece back together, then if you've learned the first note of each grouping in relation to its previous grouping, then it starts to fit together kind of like a puzzle. So if you've learned all of beat 1, including the first note of beat 2, and then you start on the same note for beat 2, then it fits together like a puzzle, and it's much easier to put all of those beats together and get all of those notes flowing like a big chain. Sometimes, instead of choosing it based on the meter, for example, all of beat 3 with the first beat of beat 4, it's good to make your last note a shift note. So, for example, let's take a look at measure 13 of Moto Perpetuo. This is beat 4, and I have a shift here up to this D. What I can do is, instead of landing on the downbeat, which is going to be C, I can end on the D instead, If I still want 5 notes and I don't want to up it to 6 notes, that just means I would start on the second note of beat 3 and end on the second note of beat 4. So let's take a look at that example. And again, this does not go exactly with the meter, but it is to practice the shift specifically. Like that. Ooh, you can see that shift's a little bit slidey. Let's see if I can do it 5 times in a row. Hopefully nice and cleanly, otherwise I'll have to start over. Just about. A little bit of a slide there. I might practice that one a little bit more. But that's another thing that you could do with 5 notes 5 times. So the next question is, what do you do if there aren't 4 note groupings? For example, what if we are working with triplets instead of 16th notes? Would we still do 5 notes 5 times? And the answer is actually no. Then you wouldn't do 5 notes 5 times, then you would do 4 notes 5 times, or however many number of times that you would want to do. So let's take a look at this different example. This is from Wolfhart Etudes, and it is number 46. And as you can see, it is only triplets throughout. This etude also has some bowings. Whenever you have slurs with this particular approach, I would ignore all slurs when you first start off. Likewise, I would ignore articulations like accent, staccato, things like that. That way you can focus on learning the rhythms with the left hand before you go and add those musicality aspects back into the piece. So if we are going to learn the first measure of this Wolfhart etude, we would look at the first 3 notes, which constitute beat 1, and the first note of the second grouping, which gives us 4 notes altogether. Taking out the slur would sound like this. Like that. And we would do that 5 times, or however many number of times. Woo! Now I have to start over. That is tricky on the C string, good grief. And so then what we would do is the next 4 notes 5 times. Ooh, like that. And then instead of doing 9 notes 5 times, when we put together those 2 groupings and the downbeat of beat 3, that will give us 7 notes altogether, and then we will do that 5 times. Like that. And so then if you wanted to add the slur back in, I guess you could. Personally, I'd probably keep going with left hand stuff first and then add the slurs in last, but it's up to you what you'd want to do at that point. Okay, so that is it for what I call 5 notes 5 times. I always combine this one with a couple of other ones that I know that are also very helpful, and I'm planning on making videos about those soon. So, as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and subscribe to my channel so I don't miss you in the next one. Bye!